The committee ultimately deciding after several months of deliberation here to subpoena 5 House Republican lawmakers, including the top Republican, Kevin McCarthy. You see these other members on the screen: Scott Perry, Jim Jordan, Andy Biggs, Mo Brooks, all allies of former President Donald Trump. And in the press release that we just got from Chairman Benny Thompson, he says that these colleagues have information relevant to our investigation into the attack on January 6th. He goes on to say, before we hold our hearings next month, we wish to provide members the opportunity to discuss these matters voluntarily. They have issued letters asking all of these lawmakers to come before them and cooperate. All of them have said no. Some of them, in the case of Mo Brooks, have even preemptively said that they would say and fight a subpoena. So we're about to get into that legal period. But Thompson goes on to say that they urge their colleagues to comply with the law, do their patriotic duty, and cooperate with our investigations, as hundreds of other witnesses have done. And I thought it was striking. These letters are, in some cases, pretty short, but the one to McCarthy just says, we are left with no choice but to issue you a subpoena. So this tees up a huge legal battle, Chuck, the first time that this committee has actually issued subpoenas to their colleagues, and a rare move here. We can't think of anything in recent memory of another time that a House committee has subpoenaed House lawmakers, but here we are.
Here we are on this surprising move where the January 6th committee has issued subpoenas for those House Republicans. That's, I guess, the surprising part. The unsurprising part is that their pushback, the way it's always been, and actually even that language to Kevin McCarthy, we have no other choice. Again, maybe I'm putting that tone on it, that energy of, sorry, Kev, I mean, we kind of have to. Let's go to graphic 2 here, because we do know who those Congress people are that have been subpoenaed. But this move does mark this significant escalation in the committee's efforts to obtain information related to the lawmakers' communications with then President Donald Trump and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows before, during, and after the attack. And in a statement, Thompson said of the committee, has learned that several of our colleagues have information relevant to our investigation into the attack on January 6th and the events leading up to it. Apparently, I guess some people see it this way: the January 6th committee has taken the gloves off as they're going after these folks. But the unprecedented nature of what we talk about here is because it's an unprecedented attack that was on our Capitol. So I think these things can all be within that same realm. So about that, before we hold our hearings next month, we wished to provide members the opportunity to discuss these matters with the committee voluntarily, is what Thompson also said. Regrettably, the individuals receiving subpoenas today have refused and were forced to take this step to help ensure the committee uncovers facts concerning January 6th. We urge our colleagues to comply with the law, do their patriotic duty, and cooperate with our investigations. Hundreds of other witnesses have. The subpoenas come ahead of the committee's long-awaited public hearings, which are scheduled to begin on June 9th. And finally, up until Thursday, the committee had been reluctant to subpoena these lawmakers because of a variety of issues. First of all, time restraints, which is a complex and lengthy legal fight that could last beyond the November midterm elections, along with fears of retribution in the likely case the Republicans win back the House majority in 22. So, okay, I'm glad we're kind of pausing there, Jessica, because I want your thoughts on when it comes to the fear, or at least maybe it's a smart move when it comes to the way Democrats want to approach midterm elections and make sure they don't do too much to shake up things and make people upset at them as they go into the midterms out of concern that they might lose. But they're already concerned that they might lose because they haven't done anything, or that these folks could, as this was just pointed out, stretch this out to a point where it's kind of null and void, because if they do take control, then they might disband this entire committee itself. So they're kind of finding themselves in a position where they're kind of in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, it's classic Democrats being afraid of something happening and resolving to just do nothing. I think they should be harder on these guys because they've pretty much hinted that they don't want to cooperate. I mean, they've explicitly said that they don't want to. Some of them are saying, well, now there's a subpoena now, maybe I'll have to show up. But even if they show up and refuse to answer questions, the Democrats are not even prepared to hold them in contempt like they have with other witnesses. Yeah. And they've said that they're not going to prepare for that they don't expect that scenario, they expect them to cooperate. Why are you expecting so much from these guys who have supported an insurrection and have tried to overturn an election? It's insane. I think the Democrats need to be harder on them. And being afraid of retaliation isn't a reason for not doing something.
You knocked on doors, Jessica. We've talked about this multiple times today. Could you imagine, maybe there's Democratic supporters. If you run across, I'm sure you ran across people who were like hardcore, I vote blue no matter who type of folks. Would anything as far as pursuing these types of folks who are blatantly thumbing their nose at the system and the law, would that turn some of these people that are supporters of Democrats, that Democrats are worried will no longer be supporters of theirs? Just from your experience in talking to people, and it's even outside of the door knocking, you talk to many people. Is there some 5%, 10% truth to this belief and fear?
No, I think if anything, this would reduce turnout among Democrats. I mean, you're making life easier for Republicans. That's really going to be the effect of this action. And they might think that McCarthy will retaliate and use his position in Congress to retaliate against the Democrats somehow. But when it comes to voters and thinking about the midterms, even the centrist Democrats, from my experience, hate Republicans. They want the Democrats to be fighting the Republicans, and progressives, of course, we know where they stand on this. You're only going to lose turnout among Democrats who aren't excited to turn out for a party that's not really doing anything.
I'm not sure where the strategy is coming from. There's political strategists and analysts, and that's their job to figure out and talk about the best way to message. And what about the best way to legislate? I mean, we're forgetting that part. It's all about getting to an election and winning it. And who cares about legislation? Who cares about representing your people?